This is Everyday Spirituality, a podcast where we explore the stories of people whose spiritual practices fill them up for the journey of everyday life. I'm Pastor Debbie Bronkema, leader of an online community called Connect.Faith, where creativity, spirituality, and justice meet. Music and production by Evan Klosser. This is Everyday Spirituality with Connect.Faith. I'm Debbie Bronkema, and I'm here today with Jesse Lewis. Jesse is an amazing guitarist with a resume filled with collaborating with a lot of incredible musicians. He's a founding member of Endless Field Band with Ike Sturm that seeks to lift up the intersection points between music and nature. They've gone as far as Alaska to make original music together. Recently, he's been exploring some new ways of making music come to life in the world. I also want to say he's a great dad and a wonderful friend and a Connect.Faith collaborator. And finally, I want to share my favorite quote that I found about you. Rebirthing the cool in the 21st century, Jesse Lewis is flipping the script on jazz for a whole new generation. I love that. Rebirthing the cool. So I'm so glad to have you here with us today. Welcome, Jesse.
Yes, I'm happy to be here and get to talk to you, Debbie, as always.
Thank you. So I wanted to start today by just asking you to talk about how you found guitar. How is it that you developed that as your gift and your love?
Yeah, I got my first guitar actually when I was 4 years old. I still have that instrument, actually. It was a Sears and Roebuck acoustic guitar.
Wow.
It was given to me as a present from my parents. And I tried to learn it I was very young. I went to a preschool, and one of the women who was a teacher there, her husband or partner was a professional musician, and they tried to give me guitar lessons with him. And he was really amazing. I actually kind of have memories of this, even though it's so long ago. But I think it was just technically like way too hard for me at that age. I have more insight on that now, sometimes teaching really young kids. It's very young for guitar. So I kind of put it away and ended up picking up cello when I was in first grade. I believe my school, public school, offered like a strings program. My sister played violin, and so I didn't want to play violin. I wanted to do my own thing. So I did the cello. I would say, really into cello. I loved playing cello. Actually, I played cello all the way through college. I had a scholarship to Loyola University in New Orleans, and it was a cello scholarship. So I thought that was kind of funny. I actually applied on guitar. I applied on guitar and sent them a cello tape as well. And they were like, your guitar playing is not really that impressive, but your cello playing is very good. We'll give you a scholarship as long as you play cello here. You can still try this guitar thing if you want. And I was kind of bummed about that, but I was like, hey, it's a lot of money, so I'll do it. Yeah. But anyways, what happened was around maybe 13 or 14 in high school, I started like really getting into rock music. At the time, bands like Nirvana and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and there were like the Ramones and Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. I just like became fascinated with rock music. And then I remembered I had that old Sears guitar, which was, children's size guitar. So I started kind of teaching myself how to play that again. And I just got super, super into it and started taking guitar lessons and formed my first band when I was 14 called the Suburban Pahoe Hoes with me and my best friend. And it was, I'm sure, very terrible, but we just had a blast with it. And then I played, I had rock bands throughout high school, and it really became kind of my passion. Interestingly, I was playing cello, and my teacher gave me this piece. It was by Claude Bowling, which is called the Jazz Cello Suite, I think. There was a recording of Yo-Yo Ma playing it, and it was like a classical piece, but with like a jazz rhythm section playing in the background. There was a recording.
Oh my.
And so I was really into that. And then after playing that, I started thinking, wow, could I do jazz cello actually? So I got involved with this after school program where you could learn how to play jazz, and I played it on the cello. That was my first experience playing jazz. And then in my combo, there was a kid playing guitar, electric guitar. He had a Fender Stratocaster. And I just was like, I want to do this on guitar, because it was kind of like combining like this instrument that I was just absolutely loving playing and this music that I was really curious about. So that was kind of the beginning of kind of how I was introduced to the guitar, and then like kind of how I got involved with jazz. It was kind of through the cello
And
and then the
it's
guitar. Well, actually, what happened was when I was a junior in high school and you start thinking about college and stuff, my parents, we had that talk about what are you going to do, and I had always assumed I would maybe be like a teacher. My mom was a history teacher in high school, and I thought it might do something like that. And they said, well, we noticed like all you really seem to like to do is music, that you're really into that. And like, I don't know, did you ever consider going to study music at college?
oh,
And I was like, it hadn't even occurred to me, and I was like, no, I wouldn't want to be a musician. Like, this is just something I love and want to do all the time, but like I want to have like a real job. But it was interesting that they kind of put the ball in my court, and they were like, okay, well, like think about it. I just wanted to let you know it's an option. And I thought about it for like 24 hours, like woke up the next morning and I was like, I'm going to music school, you know? It like I
I
after
love
I
that
did,
your parents said, no, don't get a regular job. Be a musician. Follow your dream and your passion.
yeah,
That's so great.
it really is. And it's kind of wild because neither of them
Oh,
are
okay.
musicians or were musicians. Nobody in my family really has ever been a musician. So it's kind of weird that I became musical, and
Yeah,
also that they would offer that to me.
being
Clearly, they
special.
as parents could see that this was something I was really serious about, And I guess with some perspective now, being a parent, I can imagine when you see your child like really resonating with something, you want to like amplify that and support it, or
For
that's
sure.
what I would like to do. But that's probably, because of my background
Right.
too.
Right.
Um,
They kind of planted that seed in you, but yeah, that's really awesome that they gave you that space to follow what you loved and pointed out to you, hey, you really love this at a level that is kind of unique that you want to pay
right.
attention to. That's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. That wasn't on I didn't see that. I saw it as this thing I love to do, but not as something I might ever actually do.
Too.
And they saw it, somehow differently. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
So now the music and nature, knowing you for a bit, I know that's just a really great intersection point for you. And how do you think that came to be that you found that place in you? Mhm.
that's also kind of a long journey. I realized actually something doing another podcast actually with Ike, from Endless Field. And the woman had asked us, well, what was your first experience playing music in nature? And I hadn't really thought about it. I thought it was much more recent, but then I remembered, my father moved up into the woods in New Hampshire, like when I was in high school, like when I
Okay.
was maybe 14 or 15.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Boston, a suburb of Boston, Newton,
Okay.
Massachusetts. And so it's like very, very suburban, kind of like urban upbringing, like not completely like a concrete jungle, but not wilderness, like I didn't grow up in that. And my parents were not also avid outdoors people. But my dad moved to New Hampshire. That was always really important to him. And he was
Okay.
very urban. He was from like the streets of Boston. I actually like recalled on that interview when I was probably like 20 or 21. I remember sitting by his pond and listening to these birds sort of singing their song, and actually like, hearing the melody that they were making. And then I took my guitar and tried to copy the melody and then create chords that went along with the melody. So I was kind of having this dialogue with the birds, or, at least
Oh, that's so
I was,
cool.
I was trying to accompany them in my own way. And then that became a song called White Pond Song. And I put that on my first album that I ever made back when I was
Oh,
like in my early 20s. This idea of nature and music has been something I've been even subconsciously doing for a long time now, over 20 years.
wow.
And then, of course, more recently, being friends with Ike and our adventures with Endless Field, I started also around that time exploring like the idea of being in nature and going camping, going hiking a lot. I did a big trip which was kind of life-changing by myself in my early
Oh, okay.
20s. I went out to Utah for like 3 weeks just by myself and just basically camped out there and did backcountry camping for the first time where I would have my backpack and go hike up a mountain and spend a couple nights. And at the time, that was just so frightening for me. It was pushing my comfort zone. Growing up in the city, spending a night on the
Right.
top of the mountain with snakes and mountain lions and stuff was just really frightening. But I pushed myself to do it. And anyways, I guess I'm trying to just kind of paint this picture of this evolution where I was exploring in natural places. And then
Yeah.
I think the way that relates to music is like just very natural because, music is just inspired by what you're going through in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really courageous to me to go from being a city kind of kid all the way to doing the back country kind of camping. It sounds like it was another you taking a leap, and then the leaps kind of came together. That's pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah.
cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, writing music, how does that work for you? I know you do writing, and I've heard some of your music and I love it. And I
Mm.
just wondered, what's your process? How does it happen?
Oh, um, yeah, I guess it kind of depends on what I'm writing for. For Endless Field, a lot of times I'll be at the guitar and I'll write thinking that I'm going to have to actually play or perform this music at some point, and thinking about Ike and what his role in the composition would be and to try and create some space for him. Sometimes I'll write for that group just to like push myself or to push
Mhm.
him to go beyond our comfort zone,
Okay.
um, to like write something that will make us better musicians, or make myself a better musician. That's a more technical side, but then sometimes I'll write something that I just want to like create an emotional space, or kind of a vehicle for us to improvise, or create a mood.
Mhm.
So like sometimes it's like very vague like that. You're barely writing anything and you're leaving a lot of openness for like the moment. And
Okay.
then sometimes I'm writing things where there's almost no openness for the moment and it's almost like a composition that's meant to be just performed the same
As
way.
written. Mhm.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is I've really begun resonating a lot more with the in the moment thing.
Okay.
While I've really enjoyed pushing myself technically through composition, I enjoy the process of composing it
Okay.
and learning it, but then I don't enjoy the process of performing it, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning to like listen to those signals.
So does that feed into what you've been doing lately? The new things that I've been seeing you do, or maybe revisit in a different way? Can you talk to us about whatever you'd like to share about that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a deep subject, really, a very cool one. I'm happy to talk about it because I feel like I'm kind of just exploding right now with
Yeah.
creativity and excitement in a way that I may have never actually felt in my life before.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing.
and maybe to some extent, I've felt that way at times around Endless Field when we were doing our thing in Utah. It felt like pushing to this place where your body is like literally you can feel the excitement and feel the energy and like you have to do something, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I felt that at other times as well, but right now is a special time and a lot of things kind of converged, I think, or coalesced to create what is happening right now for me.
Tell people a little bit about what it is you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So the short story is I've sort of created, I guess you'd say like an alias or a stage name or a
Uh-huh.
AKA
Uh-huh.
called Atticus Benjamin. And Atticus Benjamin, this musician who is me, but is also this character, is a place where I've been creating and sharing all kinds of music, but music that's mostly centered around electronic music and ambient music, really without boundaries, is how I'm thinking about it. My little mission statement is music made from love and positive energy without boundaries,
Ooh,
a work in progress. And I
I
really
love
thought about
that.
that.
Yeah,
I
I
really
love
thought about
that.
that because I'm like, what is this? I want to say to myself what this is. And for other people, I'm like, it's music. That's what it is. It's coming from a place of love and positivity, and there's no boundaries, and it's a work in progress. This is not perfection. This doesn't have to be good. There's no judgment at all. It's just me creating from a place of love and positivity and sharing it. And that's all it is. And that for me has been so liberating. To go back to your earlier question, it's like, okay, well, what the heck? Where is this all coming from? I should say that Atticus Benjamin are actually my two middle names.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
my full name is Jesse Atticus Benjamin Lewis. So I thought it's kind of cool. I think it sounds cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting that also it is me, and it's kind of like at the center,
Ooh,
but
yeah.
like this thing that people don't know. In retrospect, it's all so obvious that I would do this. I've had this deep love for electronic music for many, many years growing up in the 1980s, like 80s
Yeah.
pop, electronic music in the 90s and 2000s. I've just been fascinated with the sound of like synthesizers and drum machines, but I never understood how to make those sounds. I was more focused on cello and guitar, but it's been a love of mine. In what, 2007, I made an album called Atticus, actually,
Okay. Okay.
which was a huge thing for me. And I actually really love that record. It's actually one of the ways that Ike and I met. I gave him that album and he gave me his album. And we really loved each other's albums. That album was one that he really loved. And what happened was I had a good buddy who was an electronic music producer and bass player. And I asked him if he would produce the album for me.
Okay.
So we worked together. I wrote the music, but he like really created all these electronic sounds. And I love the album mainly because it's like part me, but it's like it's so much him, the producer,
Mm-hmm.
that it almost feels like I'm listening to my music, but through this other lens that I really
Yeah.
like. So that's 2007. That's like 15 years ago.
Right.
And
Right.
I've been wanting to be able to do that myself for 15 years,
Wow.
but never had the technical skills to learn how to use computers to create my own music. Actually, through teaching at a school about 5 or 6 years ago, they started an electronic music program. So I, as the teacher, had to learn how to do this stuff because I had to teach the kids.
Okay.
So I spent a summer doing tutorials, just teaching myself how to use GarageBand, which is a program that you get on a Mac for free.
Right.
Basically, I always had to stay like ahead of the kids. I wasn't the main teacher, but I had to teach it 2 days a week. So I had to know it, be able to answer
Right.
the questions. And so I started learning. I've basically spent the last 5 or 6 years, just slowly learning more and more skills about recording and electronic music, but never doing anything with it.
Yeah.
I got to this point maybe about 6 months ago where I was like, okay, well, like I know how to do all this stuff and I enjoy doing it, but I have no outlet for this.
Okay. Okay.
It's like cool to know how to record a guitar and manipulate it. It's cool to know how to sample drums, and it's cool how to know how to do sound design and create your own sounds to your liking. But it's like, if you're not going to do anything with that, I don't want to say it's pointless, but it's not really inspiring, at least on the level I'm inspired now.
Yeah.
I've been just gravitating more towards that and away from playing guitar. If I have like a couple free hours, instead of practicing my scales, I've been wanting to learn how to do more and more things.
So the
And
learning process is just really
yes,
filling you up. Yeah. That's
yes.
great.
And another piece of it is the pandemic. I spent a lot more time alone creating music because I wasn't out in the world
Right.
playing as many shows. There was a club in New York City called the 55 Bar,
Yep.
and it closed. This was kind of like my spot. Like I would play there at least once a month, usually twice a month. Obviously, it goes without saying that the world is not the same in the music scene is not the same as it was 3 years ago. But when the 55 bar closed, it like really hit me. Things are never going to be the same. On one hand, like really sad, like the community aspect of it. I had this gig every month with this singer and the band, and we would see each other, and I would always get to hang out with musicians. And that's kind of done. I mean, I'm going to be playing gigs all over the world. Like performing hasn't stopped, but the scene as it was is not the same. And I started really thinking about what that means. What do I want to do? Do I want to fight against that? Do I want to like sit here and brood about how I had this really great thing going? Or do I want to be open and say, okay, well, maybe that's not where I am anymore either.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're
All of us,
following your own energy now. You're
yes,
listening to yourself really well. That's really good.
an endless field through all of our adventures that already started. That process of realizing you can forge your own path in life and in the music scene. The path doesn't have to be book a lot of gigs, play concerts. If I love playing music with my buddy and we love playing in nature, let's do that. And let's create a new scene that resonates with where we are in our lives. All these things came together, and I'm like, I don't want to go into the city and do the same old thing. I want to be going out into the woods and creating music and making this new scene that's really resonating with me right now. It all kind of really hit me in like one moment. Actually, Ike had sent me a piece of music. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Erin Hogan,
Oh,
who's
yeah.
our friend, who's also involved with Connect.Faith, she had sent this artist to Ike and he forwarded it to me. And it's this real fusion of like acoustic music and electronic music. And this artist, Holland Andrews, was saying these words like, you know who you are.
Mm.
And something about that moment in with the sounds that I was hearing, it was like a lightning bolt just hit me. And I was like, I want to create music. I want to share music. But I was like, how do I do that? Because it's a little complicated. Me, Jesse Lewis, I came up at a time where I went to music school and worked on being a perfectionist with
Right.
my craft. And it was a time before social media where like you would work for a year on crafting an album and then
Right.
you'd put that out into the world. And that was like the thing. Now things are a little different where people almost like show you really raw things that are part of the process, and not the finished product.
Yes.
And I've also established myself as this professional musician where I'm a side man. You can hire me and I can play creative improvised music. I can play ambient music. I could play deep blues music. I can play swing and jazz music. Like Jesse Lewis is like a professional.
Yes. Yes.
And that's just the career I've developed. And it's been fulfilling. And I love that. But I'm like, I don't feel comfortable sharing under my own name this kind of thing that's really off grid, you know.
Yes. Yes.
It,
Yeah. That you want to work on and that you want to be able to play with and not have to be perfect. Right.
exactly. I don't even know what it is, and it feels like it might be sometimes confusing for people, not for everybody, but if you have one artist who's just doing so many different kinds of things, like posting a traditional jazz video in one moment and then like doing some crazy thing. Where I'm going with this is really pushing me. Like, I mean, I just recorded a video where I'm playing drum set out by a reservoir and I'm
Right.
producing that. I mean, like, it's not even about guitar at all anymore. I felt like I really needed to create a space to do that. It just like hit me like, okay, let me create that space where I can just be free and like really make music without boundaries, with the spirit of love. And it could be raw and it doesn't have to be good.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the vibe. As soon as I created that, my life has just been insane with creativity. I mean, I can feel it in my body, like right
Yeah.
now. I have a family, but I could work on this stuff for 12 hours straight. I could do it all day.
That's amazing.
I
That's
couldn't do I
so
couldn't
good
do
to see
that.
you free like that.
Yeah, I
So
couldn't
great.
do it on guitar. There's no way. I couldn't come and practice guitar for 2 hours. I'm just not interested in that right now.
Yeah. It sounds like it just totally unleashed a part of you that really needed to be
Yes.
heard, right?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And it's not about anybody else. It's just about me. I mean, I'm sharing the music because it's a little bit of accountability. Like, you have to finish this. Not like finished, like it's great, but I know this thing I'm working on, I am going to share it with people and hopefully they'll enjoy it. They
Right.
might or they might not. But if I was releasing things as Jesse Lewis, it would feel way more vulnerable like this. Although, of course, the irony and the deep part is it is me. Of course, it's
Yes.
me. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
And it's opening up my own life as Jesse Lewis, the artist, because it's giving me this other confidence.
That's amazing.
It's crazy, Debbie. I'm telling you, it's weird and wild. But the point is, I am doing it because I have to do it.
I can see that you're totally alive with it. And that's really, really wonderful to see and to hear. As I've been watching it, there's just a whole different side of you that you're letting come out. That's so, so great to see. So great to see.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. Yeah.
So if people wanted to hear it or find out more about this side of you and the other side too,
Yeah.
where would they find you?
Well, right now I'm just releasing videos of this
Okay.
music. And it's on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. It's Atticus Benjamin is the name, and the handle is called Sounds of Atticus.
Oh, fun.
I'm not releasing the music. It's not on an album. It's not on Spotify or iTunes. This is just purely like art. There's no other objective to this at all.
It's just letting you be you. I love that.
And letting me find me. And it's so exciting. I had like a free day. Like I was telling you, I took a drum set and I went down to the reservoir. It was so on edge. It was so on edge. It was this beautiful morning. And, you know, I play drums, but it's not like my main thing. And I got to the reservoir and it was perfect. But there was a guy on a rowboat. I could see him. And I have a rowboat on the reservoir. And it's like, if people make noise on the reservoir, like I really don't dig that, because it's like a place of peace where you should be able to go and not hear a drum set. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but I'm like, oh man, like I have this drum set and like, so you should have seen me, David. I bring the drums like down to the reservoir. I felt like I was like, you know, doing something illegal. It was like undercover. I like ran down there. I set him up. It's all totally like DIY. I'm setting up all the cameras myself. I got the mic set up and I'm like, okay, I literally have 60 seconds to get this done because I am not going to make noise for more than 60 seconds down here.
Wow.
So I was just like, okay. I was like, took a deep breath and I like played for 60 seconds. And then I was like, oh my God, okay. And I like packed up everything as quick as I could and I like ran out of there. And I was literally like buzzing. I was driving out of there. I was like, are the police going to come and bust me? But then that's just like half the excitement because now I have this drum beat, okay, and this video. And now I'm like, what am I going to do with that? You know, because it's not just going to be a drum beat. I'm going to start producing this as a new song. So I have to now create music to the drum beat. And that's why I'm excited right now, because I have to like figure out all these puzzles and I have to learn how to do them. And I'm excited that I've gotten to a point technically with my music production and electronic music where I can actually manipulate things to the way that I'm hearing. And that's the other side of this. The fact that I've allowed myself to do this without judgment, I'm getting so much better at it all the time. And that's the way you get good at things, is just by doing them. Right.
Right.
I could sit around and watch tutorials for my whole life, but like to get good at something, you have to do it.
Do it.
And that's what I'm doing now. I'm not great at it, but like
But to
I'm just
get good at it, you have to do it. Thank you. This whole story has been super inspiring. It's fun to see and to hear your energy and the way that you're leaning into who you are as a creative person and really listening to your own voice and your own gifts. I thank you for that. I thank you also for the, if you want to do something, you got to do it. I think people that are listening are going to really appreciate that as well, because sometimes we stay too long in the books and we forget to give ourselves a chance to actually try. You have been wonderfully inspiring today. I'm really glad that
wow.
you came by. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah.
And this has been Everyday Spirituality with Connect Our Faith. If you heard something you think someone else needs to hear, please feel free to share it with your community. And it's been great to have you. Take care.
Uh,
Thanks again from Everyday Spirituality.
thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.